Good evening and welcome. We're about 3 minutes away from starting this exciting webinar on New Clubs 101, which I, Jerome Thompson, will be hosting. And our guest and our speaker and presenter this evening is Past Council Chair Ron Seybold. If you will, just hang on as everyone is signing in and coming into the room. And just shortly, in about 2 minutes, we will start the broadcast and help everyone to understand the process of forming new clubs. The broadcast will begin shortly. Good evening and welcome to New Clubs 101, the North American Membership Initiative, which is chaired by our Vice President Haynes, Vice President Brian, Vice President Patty, is a great opportunity for pilot districts that have been selected across the United States and Canada to experiment and try new products and develop new theories of building our membership and making it stronger throughout our association. The North American Membership Initiative allows the districts to begin to have a district discovery process and discover their strengths and their weaknesses, some opportunities, and then to develop an idea plan where the districts can formulate their goals and begin to build plans of action. In 34A on February the 2nd, we held our district discovery, and part of the district discovery process, we discovered that most everyone there that was ready to assist us indicated that they needed to know how to form new clubs, that they are willing to help, but they didn't have the knowledge base to help. And so tonight's webinar is put on by the NAMI group from District 34A, and that's Focus Group 4, that is in charge of supporting districts and clubs as we provide people the skills and equip our Lions to be better leaders. Group 1 is focused on new clubs. Group 2 is focused on bringing members into existing clubs, and Focus Group 3 is engaged in providing exciting service opportunities to retain members. And so tonight we welcome those from across North America, the United States and Canada who have joined us. We have quite a few from Alabama, which is where District 34A is located. And it's my pleasure to welcome past Council Chair Ron Seybold to assist us in providing an overview of what it takes to start new clubs. Ron has served our association well for a number of years. He served as our past council chair. He was our centennial coordinator for multiple District 34. He's our pin chair. So if you collect pins and you've seen the outstanding pin designs in the last 4 or 5 years, Lion Ron has provided that. And now he serves as our North American Membership Initiative champion for 34A. And the champion's role and responsibility is to sort of herd cats, to help us all to head in the same direction and to make sure that we continue to build the momentum necessary in order to be successful when this pilot is over. Welcome, past Council Chair Ron.
Good evening, PID Jerome, and everyone that signed in tonight. I'm excited that we have a good group here for the webinar.
We do, and they're continuing to come in. Now, past Council Chair Ron, as we share tonight, I think it's important for those in attendance to understand that this is not your first rodeo. Can you give us a brief overview of the clubs that you've helped to start?
Well, I've been involved in one capacity or another on successfully starting 12 clubs over several years. And then we've just started this past week on number 13 for me.
Number 13. Well, lucky 13. Hopefully, we will get it off the ground and going as we begin to build membership. Tonight's webinar is designed to help people to start clubs organically within their district and develop the leadership within their district. Of course, Lions Clubs International also has the new club development workshop program where that we can assign a consultant who will provide some training before he or she arrives, and then also come and have hands-on training and walk alongside you as you take the steps that our Lion Ron is going to talk about tonight. If you want a new club consultant, go to the website, hit the little search bar, put in new club development workshop, and the form will pop up for you to fill in. Send that to LaTanya, and she will match a consultant whose talents meet your needs and help you to start a club in your district. However, there's some district governors who would prefer to handle things internally themselves. And this webinar tonight is designed to develop the skills necessary for us all to go out and to start clubs. Wouldn't it be great if 241 district governors across the US either started a club themselves or with the assistance of a consultant, and we expanded our footprint of service? Lion Ron, as we begin, what is that first step? I'm a district governor. I don't know where to start. What's on my checklist before we can really begin the process of finding new members?
Okay. First, I would like to say that a lot of these items that we're going to talk about, I have learned from some new club consultants, and then some of it is just experience from over the years on what works and what doesn't. But when you think about the first step of a new club journey, a lot of people think, well, that's when you go out and start asking people to join a new club. But there is so much to do before that. You have a tremendous amount of pre-work to do, and if you do all of it, it really shows, and the chances of making a successful club are just increased dramatically. But of course, number one, you have to identify the locations that could support and sustain a Lions Club in your district, and then make your selection of which one you're going to work with at this particular time. And you obtain a sponsoring club. Hopefully they're close to the chosen location. And then the next thing would be to check the availability of qualified lions that could serve as a guiding lion for the new club. And I would ask that you do not get hung up on the title of certified guiding lion. I mean, being certified is a great thing, but if you don't have a certified guiding lion, but you have a great lion that would be willing to serve as guiding lion, go ahead and appoint them as a guiding lion. The certification can always come at a later date, because it's very beneficial if the guiding lion is out there with you when you start canvassing and signing up members for the new club. And so that gives them an opportunity to build a relationship with these new lions right off the bat, and then that will help. That relationship will grow, and it will help as he or she is serving as the guiding lion for the new club. And then, of course, he can't do it by himself. So you need to put together a team of experienced lions that are energetic and excited about being a lion, because that energy really helps to entice a person to join the new club when that excitement comes out of those lines when they're talking to them, because first you must believe in yourself, and secondly in our association. And if you do that, it will definitely come across when you're talking to these people and asking them to join us in our service. And of course, the team members have to be willing to dedicate the time and effort to form a new club. It's not an easy task to take on, really. It does take a lot of dedication and time to do it. Um, and as soon as you have your team members, please supply them or give them the link to obtain a new club development guide so they can be studying that. It is a tremendous asset, and it goes from the extension workshop all the way through the charting a new club, and it's invaluable in the process of starting a new club.
Lion Ron, as you have been talking, I've been taking a few notes. Uh, the selection of a site was the first thing, but when we look across North Alabama, there's a lot of cities who which do not have a Lions Club. How do I, where do I find the data, or where do I find the information to determine which is the most fertile site for me to start?
Well, there's an excellent resource that will help you with that line, Jerome, and it's city-data.com. It is an excellent resource, and you will obtain information that you want to know, and even some you may not want to know about a community that you want to go into. It gives you population figures and the demographics about the people that live there. It even identifies and provides information about what kind of local businesses there are and industries. Um, it gives you information about the educational system in that community, and whether they have junior college or college or trade schools, vocational schools. And the list just goes on and on and on the information that you can obtain. So once again, that was city-data.com. And please be sure to use that if you're planning on starting a new club. That is one of the first steps I take, and it helps me to make a decision on which location I want to focus the attentions at that time.
And if I've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 locations, is it important that I do a sort of a community needs assessment and make sure there's a need in that community before I go and start forming a club? Or do we let the club do that after it's formed?
Well, I like to not necessarily do a complete community needs assessment, but in the process, we will pick up some of the needs in the community. Um, and we will talk about that when we have our extension workshop, because we've got to have that. Even though we don't have a new club consultant, we still go through an extension workshop like we would if a consultant was there. And we usually hold it on a Sunday afternoon and for a couple hours, and then we begin our canvassing on a Monday morning. Um, one of the most important parts of that extension workshop, I believe, is the role playing. And if you have someone on the team that has experience in forming new clubs and they've been at this before, they are invaluable to that process, because they can do role playing for actual circumstances that they have run across. But you're also going to have some lines that have not done it before, and they don't really know what to expect, because you can get a little bit of anything and everything and all kind of questions and things thrown at you. So it kind of helps them get the jitters out on doing this role playing. And then when they go out and they start making the calls, they are much more at ease when they do it, because they have already gone through some of these scenarios. But we cover also some of the best practices, like of what to wear. A shirt with a Lions logo on it is excellent to wear, and some dress slacks. We don't want to wear a yellow vest all covered with pins that make you jingle when you walk. And we have some district governor teams out there. I know we've got some here in Alabama for sure that like to put every pin that they can get on the lapels of their blazers. And we don't want to throw that image out there. If the weather's where you're going to wear a jacket, just like a Lions logo, a Lions pin is sufficient. We go over some things to say and not to say. We talk about having two-person teams. There was a lot of debate over the years on which works best, you know, on one or three or four, but it's been shown over the years that the most effective way and to get the positive results are having two-person teams. And that's the only thing that I have worked with, and it's always been successful for me. And one of the things that we want to be sure and say when we're talking to these people, we want to carry that positive note and that excitement, is that we are starting a Lions Club in Crossville, Alabama. You never want to say we're trying to start, because that leaves a little bit of doubt. So we are starting. Keep that positive attitude going. And then one of the hardest things that seems to get across to some of these teams, especially if it's their first time in helping start a new club, is when you're talking to these people, hand them an application and ask for the check right then. Because many times they're not asked for a check. They're just encouraged to attend the informational meeting that was coming up, and they think, well, whoever's running the informational meeting can get the check. But if you can get that check that first time when you're canvassing and you're talking to them about joining, then that immediately gives them ownership in this new club, and you'll have much better interaction and support from them when you get into the meetings and things.
Well, Lion Ron, I appreciate all the information you shared, and I flipped the page and started taking notes on the second page. You have a lot of great information. We've selected the site. We've used citydata.com. We've got the sponsoring club. We've got the guiding alliance. We've done the extension workshop. We've built a team, and is everyone can, or anyone can be on the team, but all of us have different talents and likes and dislikes. Are there some jobs on the team that for those they're a little quieter, a little shyer, that don't want to go out and knock on doors and greet businesses?
Oh, there definitely is, because it's you really need to start a database as you're doing that, and each and every day, I encourage everyone, for every call that they make that's possible, to get a business card, because that gives you the name of the business, usually the owner's name, of course your address and phone numbers and email address. So that little business card is so valuable. And usually, not always, but usually they're blank on the back. So you can write on there, interested, not interested, maybe, needs a follow-up, so that when those business cards are turned in at the end of the day, then whoever's doing this database can look and see and put them in a category. And then it also gives you the information you need to do letters, follow-ups. But the database, we try to keep it on every person that we contact, and it's updated that day. And then we send a letter or an email that evening, thanking the ones that have joined and are now a charter member of the Lions Club, and talk about how much that they're going to enjoy it, and their life will be changed as much as the lives we change through our service, et cetera, just to really pump them up, and that it's a great thing to be a Lion. And then the ones that did not join, that indicated that they'll probably come to the informational meeting, just send them one thanking them for their time and their interest, and give the date and time and place of the informational meeting, and give them a personal invitation to attend that meeting, and hope to see you there. And just as a follow-up, but those two sections of your canvassing definitely need to go out that night. And then the ones that are not really interested at this time, you can always send them an email thanking them for the time that they gave, to talk to us about Lions, and ask if they would like to be kept on our email roster so that they can be kept up to date on the things that the clubs are doing. Because if they say yes and they see the positive things that this club is doing, that may change their mind to where they'll want to join.
Ron, that is great. We've got the site selected. We've got the Lions that are going to work with us. We've got our guiding Lions. What do we do to sort of warm up the community so they're receptive to Lions clubs being chartered in their community?
Well, there's numerous things you can do. One, as simple as, going to a local restaurant and having a cup of coffee. You'd be surprised at the conversations that pop up just over a cup of coffee in these restaurants, and you could actually pick up a charter member right there, having a cup of coffee. Read the local newspaper so that you know what's going on in the community. It's an excellent method of identifying some of the needs of the community sometimes. And it also, with the newspaper, there's always a place of who to contact. And if you can contact the newspaper before you start canvassing and just get them to do a little story about a Lions Club is being formed in Crossville, Alabama, and meeting is such and such time, and the public's invited, and you can give a little data line about Lions International, 1.4 million members, 200 countries, and being the largest service organization in the world. Because a lot of times if you do that, say the week before you're canvassing, because so many of the rural areas in Alabama just have a weekly paper, but then instead of making a cold sell, it becomes a warm sell. They say, oh, I saw that in the paper last week. And so they've already been thinking of the questions they want to ask. And so that is very valuable. Sometimes it works out well that you can have another type of story, and that's interest story. For example, one of the clubs I started recently, we visited the Senior Citizen Center. And seniors are quite vocal, as we all know, because a lot of us are in that category. But this particular senior center, they said, if Lions want to help us, they can give us ink pens, because we use lots and lots of ink pens. And I'm like most people, had a couple cigar boxes and a bag full of ink pens. And I said, you'll have a bag of ink pens tomorrow. And so I come home, bagged them all up, went back the next morning and gave them to them. And they were just tickled to death. They thought I thought I'd give them $1 million. And they said, you Lions are all right. Will you give us a program about Lions? And so I just had kind of my own little informational meeting with the senior center and picked up some members there over something as simple as a bag of used ink pens. So if you can put something like that in the newspaper, then that's always a good thing so people can read about it before you may call on them. You always want to try to meet the mayor and try to arrange to speak at their city council meeting. Most all mayors are so excited that a Lions Club wants to come to their town, because they have heard about what Lions have done over the last 100 years, and they will do anything to help you get started. This one that we're working on now, the mayor was the first one to write a check and fill out a charter application. She was so excited. But if you get the mayor and the city council members involved, they're the movers and shakers of the community, and they know a lot of people. And, you know, a lot of times they'll tell you when you start talking to them, and Lions, they'll usually tell you about some needs of the community that you can pick up on. Um, a lot of times there's an event going on in the community where you're wanting to start a new club, and you can check and see if you can have an informational booth and pass out brochures and talk to people about Lions. And it's not unusual to pick up some members there. And of course, you know, always visit your local newspaper and TV and radio. They're usually always happy to give you some public service announcements and talk about how you're coming to town.
So a couple weeks before that, you go knocking on the doors and canvassing, you've met with the mayor and the city council, you've read the newspaper and done your homework, you've just sort of been visible in town, looking for service projects that can be easily performed, and you have just quietly created a buzz in the community. Is that what I hear you saying?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we've got the community warmed up. How do we begin to enroll new members?
Well, one of the things we first off that we cover in the extension workshop is do not be afraid to hear no, because you're going to hear a lot of no's before you get a yes a lot of times. But don't get discouraged. It's nothing personal. And even if they say no, always ask them if they know of someone that they think would be a good civic minded individual that would do well in a club like a Lions Club, and thank them for their time, even though they say no, because we always want to leave on a positive note. And of course, we're going to keep them. We do all the posts that we can and ask people to share on Facebook and other social media. And we are in the process of learning here in Alabama. We have constant contact that our multiple district office uses, and it has the capability to do a landing page where we can do ads on Facebook, etc. And it takes the person to the landing page, and they can RSVP that yes, they're going to attend the informational meeting on such and such a date. And then when you start to do your actual canvassing, what we always do, and what I personally recommend, is go first to the businesses that deal with a lot of people, like banks. Usually banks love to have a member of their bank to join the civic organization. And so they're usually good, and many banks will pay the dues of their employee to become a Lions Club member. So that makes it easy for the new Lion. Insurance agents are someone else that deals with a lot of people. And always remember the superintendent of schools, because any ties that we can have with the schools is maybe a potential Leo club in the future, which connects you with all the parents of the Leos, and it just keeps growing like a snowball rolling downhill when you meet with those type of people that have contact with so many different people.
Ron, if you and I are on this two-man team and we walk into the bank, can you give us an example of what you might say to that branch manager, and how long that we might spend there? Because some of us Lions are a little bit talkative, like myself, and I could spend a half a day talking about Lions. And so what's the time restraints, and what's that elevator speech sound like?
Well, as you can tell, I like to talk as well, so sometimes it's kind of challenging, but you don't want to take more than 3 to 5 minutes to give your spiel, because they're busy. You're going in there in the middle of the day. They were not expecting you, so you have to be considerate of their time. But I tell them, you know, my name is Ron Seybold. I'm with Lions Clubs International, and we're forming a new Lions Club here in Crossville, Alabama. And ask them if they know about lions, and most of them will say they know a little bit, and most of them know that we do vision. Well, we just talk about, you know, well, we do vision, that's our main focus, but we also work in these other core groups, and we always talk about, but the great thing about being a lion and a local Lions Club is because you decide right here locally on what projects and what services you provide, because we want to provide the services to our local community as well as on the global stage. And that will usually bring up a couple questions, and then of course you want to talk about how much the dues are. We cannot let the dues be a surprise. And I always hand them an application and say, do you have time to fill this out and write a check now, or would you like me to come back later? And most of the time they'll just go ahead and fill it out and write the check right then. You know, it's like, to get a new member, you just ask. Well, to get checks and charter applications when you're canvassing for a new club, you just ask.
And Ron, that brings up a very good question. As the global action team leader for Constitution Area 1, quite often I get this question. And so help me to understand how to answer this question. That is, Lions say that the dues is a hindrance to uh, bringing people into our association, that they can go and volunteer in other places and not have to pay dues. How do you address the dues when somebody says, raise an objection, or do you hear any objections as you are out bringing people into our association?
Well, you're always going to have someone ask, well, what do the dues go for? And that's pretty easy to explain. One of the biggest things is it helps cover us with our liability insurance that we have through Lions International, which is priceless when you're out there doing a project in case something should happen. Um, Also, it helps to maintain our Lions Learning Center and the wonderful courses that are available to every lion, um, especially a young lion fresh out of school, or a young businessman wanting to grow. And so they can build a resume by taking the courses in the Lions Learning Center. And a lot of companies pay major dollars to have their employees go through seminars and stuff that are on the same topics as we have in the Lions Learning Center for free for any lion. And then, of course, it takes a staff at Lions International to support our organization. And you give that explanation, and usually everyone is very well satisfied with that.
Okay, and so we've began to enroll some members, some charter members. We've been picking up checks. Uh, Everyone, are you asking them for referrals before you leave? Who are your friends, your families, and neighbors?
Yes, always asking. You know, they say, well, you know, Jim right next door, you know, we do stuff together, and I think he would want to. And, you know, because so you go see Jim and you say, hey, Jim, Andy next door said I should come and talk to you, that he feels that you'd be a great uh, asset for this club and would like for you to join with him. Again, that takes it from a cold sell to a warm sell.
Okay, now we've got those, and we're having our informational meeting. We've been publicizing it and pushing it. Can you give us a brief overview of those first couple of organizational meetings? And then in just a few minutes, we're going to start taking some questions and wrapping things up. And already some good questions are coming in. And so tell us about the organizational meetings, what you're doing to at these meetings.
Okay, be glad to. Um, of course, always have an agenda so that it you can keep on track with that and it all flows well. But we always give a welcome, and we always say that it's customary that Lions clubs open with an invocation and a pledge. So we do that to open it up. And then what we do here in Alabama is we have each attendee to stand up and give their name and tell a little bit about themselves, just real briefly. And then whoever's running the meeting will introduce the Lions that are there. And we don't use a lot of titles. It's Lion Betty and Lion Jim, etc. And one of the things you have to be careful about is you don't want so many lions there that you have more lions than you do prospective members, which can be very intimidating sometimes. So you want some lions to kind of just fall back into the background, so you don't have that. But then we give a brief history of Lions International, and we talk about the state projects and a little bit of history on the state of Alabama. And then we talk about the benefits of Lions, like we were just talking about. And we discuss the dues structure, and then we open it up for a question and answer period. And then if time allows on that first meeting, then we kind of start a brief discussion about service projects, so they can be thinking about what service project they think is needed in the community. And of course, then we always encourage them to bring a friend, family member, co-worker, someone back with them to the next meeting. And once we have the first informational meeting, we meet every week until we have enough members to charter that club. And then once they're chartered and they have their officers and they're conducting a regular Lions meeting, then they can decide if they want to continue every week or reduce it back to 2 times a month or whatever. And then like this, I usually find it takes about 3 informational meetings to where you've got checks in hand and ready to submit the charter application. So you just kind of, to say the second meeting, you just kind of have to size up the audience, see how many of them are repeat people, how many are new, and you kind of judge by that on how much of the repeats you do of the format of the first meeting. And if most of them have been there before, then you kind of go more into the structure of a Lions Club and a little bit more about service projects. And like the third one is usually we devote a lot of time to the responsibilities and job descriptions of the club officers, and let them know hey, at the next meeting, we're going to be electing officers. So if you would, like to be serve as an officer, let it be known to your fellow members here, and then we have election and off we go.
Let me ask a question. The informational meeting, how formal are they? Are they sitting around a table at a restaurant or a coffee shop, or are they more structured than that?
No, we like to have everyone at ease there, and it's not real formal. A lot of times you have to kind of go with the flow. People react different ways in different communities, so you're just ready to go either way. But we find it's best to have a more relaxed type atmosphere. Um, we do show a video, Become Involved, Become a Lion, and we talk about the Lions logo, having the lions, facing toward our rich heritage and the future. And we talk about how recognizable that Lions pin is around the world. And I always bring up, you go to an airport with a Lions Club pin, and a lot of times someone will say, "Oh, you're a Lion." Me too, or I've heard about Lions Club, etc. So then I don't know if you remember, it was not too long ago they come out with the different spoof videos, and there was one, Got a Little Lion in You, where the guy goes through the scanner at the airport. I always show that one, and that just, the crowd usually just loves that, and they're laughing and everything. It just helps bring any reservations, gets them out of the way, and people are comfortable from that point on, because say, we like to make fun of ourselves, and we just, we want it friendly.
Lion Ron, Sharon Sykes, who's on with us tonight, Lion Sharon has typed a question in, which I think ties into this informational meeting. And she asked, one issue we run into when trying to grow a new club is what do you do with new member applications when you fall short of the required 20 to create a club? Do you have a suggestion as to what to do when you fall short of that 20?
Well, usually the longest you'd want to stretch it out is 8 weeks. If by that 8th week you don't have your 20, then you can take the members that you do have and you can form a branch of the sponsoring club. And then you can keep encouraging them and getting them to start working on recruiting fellow members, because they all need to understand that it's each one of them's responsibility from day one, to help with membership. So you start them as a branch and they start learning about Lionism and everything from their host club. And you just work with them to continue so they can get it up to 20.
Okay. And so if we don't reach 20, we've definitely got 5, and so we can start with a branch. And then uh, how do we begin to transfer or shift the leadership to the new club and away from the organizers? Because we've been holding these meetings and they've probably become a little bit reliant upon us to handle things.
Well, I meet with the president separately and individually, and I give him a sample agenda for a standard Lions Club meeting. And I'll ask them, do you want me to go ahead and do this one? And then you start taking over next week, because they've been listening to things, but they've not really paid attention to that because it wasn't something they had to do. So they'll say, yeah, that'd be great. Well, then they follow along on the agenda while you're doing it. They kind of become comfortable without even realizing it sometimes. And at the second meeting, I let them go ahead and call it to order. I may help them and say, well, do you want me to cover this part of it or that part of it? And maybe split it 50-50 even. But then by the third meeting, they're usually ready to go, because the ones that are elected officers are usually businessmen or women that have been through, they've been on boards and things before. So they don't have any problem just picking up and running a meeting.
Okay. And so you begin to mentor or demonstrate how it's done, and then gradually shift them into that leadership role.
Right.
Very good. Now, uh, we've got these guiding lines. You mentioned the guiding lion earlier. Uh, Tell me or share with us what you believe is the main role of the guiding lion, some do's and some don'ts. As we begin to pull this together, we continue to have some questions coming in, and we're going to get to those in just a half a second. What is the role of the guiding lion, Lion Ron?
Well, the guiding line is one of the most rewarding jobs that you can have as a lion. And it's also one of the most difficult sometimes that you can have as a lion. It takes a special person to be a guiding lion, but these new clubs, without one, their chances of survival are very low. But the guiding lion, and I have served as guiding lion, I'm currently as the guiding lion, and I love to talk. And the hardest thing for me is to keep my mouth shut when I'm at these new club meetings, because I could tell them, oh no, you do it this way and do this way. That's not what we want to do. We want them, it's their club, and they're going to make the decisions and do what they want. And sure, they're going to make some mistakes and they're going to stumble a little bit, but they're going to learn from those mistakes and be a stronger club for it. Um, you're there for when they ask you advice, or if they're just really getting off, the beaten path, you can kind of suggest and maybe pull them back more to the standard route. But you just kind of coax them and encourage them, mainly encourage them, and just be there for them to support them. But the hardest part is, it's not your club, and they're not going to do everything the way you do, but that's okay. And you're there to support them.
Okay. And so a guiding line is more of a coach than a manager, and sort of
Coach
like
or
those
cheerleader.
bumpers. Okay. Sort of like the bumpers at the bowling alley that just sort of keep you out of the gutters.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. As we continue, it's time for some question and answers. And District Governor Bubba Bingham asked about the videos and the resources that you had mentioned. Where can Lions get the videos that you mentioned, or where can they get the PowerPoints for the informational meetings that you talked about?
Okay, as far as the PowerPoints, Governor Bubba, um, I have been working with the Tanya Gatewood from Membership Division at International Headquarters, and as long as with some other folks, and we have been working on those, and they will be released in the very near future. There's a PowerPoint that shows you how to conduct an informational meeting, and then there's also one that's been put together that you can use at the informational meeting, and they will be they're in the final stages of development now, and they'll be released in the very, very near future. As far as the videos, the easiest way is to go to YouTube and join the Lions International channel, and every video that Lions International has put out is available on there. And one of the great ones is Become Involved, Become a Lion. There's another one, It Takes a Lion. And there's several there that you could use. I think the Become Involved, Become the Lion is the newest one, and it's more upbeat than some of the others. But every Lions International video that's ever made, you can get on YouTube on the Lions International channel.
Very good. Now, if anyone in the audience has a question, you can type it into the question pane, or you can raise your hand. Lion Pam Williams had a question, Ron, and I'm looking at the question that she's typed in. And Lion Pam, I'm going to unmute you. Can you join us and ask your question of Lion Ron and help us understand what your concerns are?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Thank you so very much for joining us, Lion Pam.
Okay, my question is, suppose there's a group of folks that want to be a lion, but they don't live in your district. They live in another district and they are familiar with you and want you to help them form a club. Do you just tell them no, or do you go ahead and assist them and get a club from that district to come and be a sponsor?
That's a very good question, Pam. Of course, anyone that wants to be a lion, you never want to turn your back on them. So I would recommend you definitely want to help them. But I would contact either the district governor, or if you know who their GMT is, and share with them about this group that's wanting to be a lion. And since they all know you, and if you're there to help them, it'll make them feel much better and help start that club. And a guiding lion does not have to be from the same district as the club.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that.
you could actually help that club get started if that district governor could then appoint you as their guiding lion.
Fantastic.
Well, Pam, Thank you. Did that answer your question this evening and give you some other ideas?
Yes, it most definitely did.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. And what other, uh, let's see, at this point in time, there's someone who would like for you to once again uh, talk about what exactly should be said in a minute to minute and a half when you walk into a business. Can you give us that minute and a half? You've walked into my office. What are you going to say to me, Ron?
Okay, you thank them for their time, number one, and you tell them, I'm Ron Seybold with Lions International, and we are forming a new Lions Club in the community, and we would like you as one of the business leaders in the community to be a part of it. And ask them if they're familiar with Lions clubs, and they usually always say yes. And they'll tell you kind of what they know, and then you can say, well, they usually all know that we work with vision, and say, well, we also work on several other things. And I tell them about the 5 core groups. But then I also say that the great thing about Lions is that each local Lions club chooses themselves what service they want to provide for their community, because each community is different, and this club is here to meet the needs of this community first and foremost. And tell them we'd love to have you for a member, and I tell them how much the dues are, and I hand an application to them and say, if you'd like to fill that out, I'm prepared to take your check today, and you can be a charter member.
We have another question here, Lion Ron, and that is, how do you know how much dues to collect before the club is voted on their dues structure?
Very good question, and you hear all kind of things. I can only tell you what we do. Of course, you've got the $35 entrance fee. There's some waivers to that, and I know the veterans waiver has been extended to June 30th of 2021. That's fantastic. But it's $35 entrance fee for most folks. And then what we do is we say dues are $10 a month, collected quarterly. So that would be $30 for the quarter. And then the club can change that after they are chartered, and they can discuss it. And if they want to change it, they can change it. It's just an easy number for people to remember, easy for the treasurer, and $10 a month does not sound expensive. We try to always collect for the first quarter. And if you're, say, in the middle of a quarter, you may tell them, well, to get you through, say, the next 4 months, you say, to get you paid all the way through June, it'll cost you $75. And explain that $35 of that is a one-time charge to International, and the other is $10 a month for the local dues.
Very good. And then we've had another question about when you were talking about warming up the community, you spoke about getting articles in the newspaper, and you listed 2 or 3 things that those articles should include. Would you hit those bullet points one last time for us?
Okay. Well, I call them feel-good stories. And you always want it to be talk about something or a person, in local person that's involved, that especially it's great if it's someone that is well known and well respected in the community, because they read that name and it automatically grabs their curiosity, and they want to read more. But anything that you can get in there exposing Lionism, it doesn't have to try to tell the whole story, just that we're coming and we're going to form the new club in town, and you give a sample of like some services that Lions provide, and then put in there that we're the largest, world's largest service organization, and 1.4 million members in 200 countries. And if you're as lucky as I was when I started, we had an image magnifier, which cost several $1,000s, donated to us. And when we were in this town, they had a spatial school, and they had several blind students. And this one student, he was 8 years old, and his textbooks cost $1,800 to $2,500 per textbook, so that he would be able to read them. And with this image magnifier, you buy a regular textbook, and the child is able to read it. And so all that money is saved by the school, you know, because a regular textbook doesn't cost a whole lot compared to the other. And immediately you have got a friend in that school, that student, and everything else. And they can't wait to get it in the paper. They said, we'll put it in there for you. And so they know everybody in town, so that it's easy for them to get things in the newspaper. But again, it brings out something positive for Lions. And then it could be just as simple as like the lady that said they needed ink pens at the senior center.
And to that, there's a follow-up question that has been typed in, Lion Ron, and that is, should a new club wait until after charter night to begin to serve in their community?
No, I would say no. Once you have your charter approved, you have 90 days from charter approval date to bring on more charter members. So most charter nights are set very near the end of that 90 days, so that every charter member they can possibly get, has the opportunity to participate in that charter night banquet, which is such a special event. But once your charter is approved, you are covered by our Lions International insurance, liability insurance. And so at that point, you can start doing service projects. The sooner you can get out there in the public and they see, hey, those Lions are really working, you're going to get people's attention. You're going to have some people want to join because of that. And the more successful things they see you doing, the more people will want to be involved, because everyone wants to be involved in something that's successful. So anytime you can get the name of Lions out there and show that you're working to help the community, it's a plus. So I'd say, you know, as soon after your charter's approved, go to work on service project, definitely. Great
Lion
question.
Ron, as you know, here in 34A, we hold our go-to-meetings, go-to-webinars to 1 hour, and we're just almost out of time. And so in less than a minute, any closing comments that you might have?
Well, there are lots of new brochures and flyers and everything else being developed each and every day at Lions International. The staff is just doing a fantastic job up there, and there are almost daily updating forms and things there. So don't be afraid to go to the Lions website, to the resource center. There's tons of information out there that will help you expand membership in your area, which also increases the service that we're able to provide. We came up with a slogan during the centennial: where there's a need, there's a lion. I truly believe that. With 200 countries, but you have 48,000 clubs, there can't be a lion too far away. So let's keep building on that, and just our legacy will continue far beyond the 100 years, and we'll make the second century even better. Thank you very much for attending tonight.
Well, thank you for the wealth of information that you've provided and the guidance and based on the feedback, I know that you've triggered a lot of thoughts, not only here in North Alabama in our district, but with all the Lions from across North America who have joined us. Uh, Thank you very much. Lion Ron, one last question. A lot of folks will be sending emails to me uh, as the Global Action Team leader based on tonight's discussion. Will you also be available to assist us in getting those answers and encouraging and coaching some of our Lion leaders who have joined us tonight?
I most certainly will. You know, the more we share with each other, the better team we become.
And that is one of the great things about the North American Membership Initiative. We're developing concepts to share with the world because, once again, the birthplace of Lions Clubs International is going to rise up to the occasion. We're going to increase our membership. We're going to expand our service. And we once again are going to be the world renowned leaders of our association. Thank you so very much, Ron. Thank you for everyone who joined us tonight, the great questions that have been typed in, and the exchange that we've had. If we can help you in the future, let us know. And until later, keep asking, keep extending, and keep serving. Have a good evening.